My mother-in-law called immigration on me because she thought I was an illegal immigrant who'd stolen her son. She didn't know my father was the Ambassador of Portugal to the United States. She didn't know I held diplomatic immunity that put me beyond any agency's reach. And she definitely didn't know that filing a false report against someone with my status would bring consequences she never imagined possible. My name is Isadora Melo-Richardson, and for 2 years, I've been married to the most wonderful man in America, and cursed with the most hateful mother-in-law on the continent. Patricia Richardson decided she hated me the moment her son brought me home. It wasn't my personality. She barely spoke to me long enough to learn it. It wasn't my career. She never asked what I did. It was my accent, my olive skin, my name that she couldn't pronounce and refused to try. "Where are you from, exactly?" she'd asked that first dinner, her eyes narrowing as she watched me eat. "Lisbon, Portugal. And your visa status?" I'd been so shocked by the question that I'd simply said, "I'm here legally," and changed the subject. I should have told her the truth right then. But my husband Marcus had begged me to keep my background quiet. "My mother is difficult," he'd warned me when we first started dating. "She's obsessed with status and appearances. If she knows who your father is, she'll either try to use you for connections or resent you for outranking her. Either way, it won't be genuine. Can we just let her get to know you as a person first?" I'd agreed, naively believing that Patricia Richardson would eventually see me for who I was. Instead, she spent 2 years seeing me as a target. Patricia's campaign against me was relentless and creative. She told her friends I was a mail-order bride Marcus had found online. She told her church group I was probably overstaying a tourist visa. She asked Marcus, repeatedly in front of me, whether he'd checked her documents before proposing. At family gatherings, she'd seat me at the far end of the table, away from important conversations. She'd give everyone Christmas gifts except me, claiming she didn't know what people from your country like. She'd mispronounce my name deliberately, Isadora, instead of the correct Isadora, and laugh when I corrected her. "Oh, it's all so confusing," she'd say with a wave of her hand. "Foreign names." Marcus defended me when he could, but Patricia was his mother. He loved her despite her flaws, and I loved him enough to tolerate her hatred. I kept telling myself it would get better. She'd warm up eventually. She'd see that I made her son happy. I was wrong. Patricia didn't want to warm up. Patricia wanted me gone. And 2 weeks ago, she decided to take matters into her own hands. The ICE officers arrived on a Tuesday morning. Marcus had already left for work. I was in my home office, reviewing documents for the cultural exchange program I direct at the Portuguese embassy, when the doorbell rang. 2 officers stood on my porch, a man and a woman in official uniforms, their expressions professionally neutral. "Mrs. Richardson?" the woman asked. "Melo-Richardson, yes. Can I help you?" "I'm Officer Denise Hartley, and this is Officer James Kowalski. We're with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We've received a report regarding your immigration status and need to verify your documentation." My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I'd been expecting something like this for months. Patricia had been making increasingly aggressive comments about reporting me. I just hadn't known when she'd finally follow through. "Of course," I said calmly. "Please come in. I'll get my documents." I led them to the living room and retrieved my passport from the home safe. Not my regular Portuguese passport, my diplomatic passport, the burgundy one with gold lettering that identified me as a member of a diplomatic household. I handed it to Officer Hartley. She opened it. "Read the first page." "Read it again." Then her face went pale. "Officer Kowalski," she said quietly, "you need to see this." He took the passport, and I watched the color drain from his face too. "Ma'am," Officer Hartley said slowly, "this passport indicates you're a dependent of Ambassador Eduardo Melo, the Portuguese ambassador to the United States." "My father, yes." "You have diplomatic immunity." "I do." The 2 officers exchanged a look that contained an entire conversation. This was not a routine verification anymore. This was a potential international incident. "Ma'am," Officer Kowalski said carefully, "may I ask who filed the report against you?" "You may, but I suspect you already know." Officer Hartley checked her tablet. "The complaint was filed by a Patricia Richardson. She claimed you were an illegal immigrant who had fraudulently married her son for a green card." "My mother-in-law," I confirmed. "She's been unhappy about my marriage to her son for 2 years. This is her latest attempt to remove me from his life." Officer Hartley closed her tablet with a soft click. Mrs. Melo-Richardson, I need to inform you that filing a false report with ICE is a federal offense. Given your diplomatic status, this situation is significantly more serious than a typical false report. How serious? Your father's office will need to be notified. The State Department will be involved. And your mother-in-law. She paused. Ma'am, she could face federal charges. Harassment of a diplomat's family member, filing false statements with a federal agency, potentially more depending on how the investigation proceeds. I let that sink in for a moment. Officers, may I make a request? Of course. I'd like to be present, W.H. Patricia Richardson lived in a pristine colonial house in Fairfax, Virginia. The kind of house that screamed respectable American family from every white-painted shutter. She opened the door expecting triumph. Instead, she found 2 ICE officers, her despised daughter-in-law, and a representative from the Portuguese embassy who had insisted on attending once he learned what had happened. What is this? Patricia demanded. Why is she here? Did you arrest her? Mrs. Richardson, Officer Hartley said. May we come inside? We need to discuss the report you filed. Patricia's smile was triumphant as she stepped aside. Of course. I assume you've verified that she's here illegally? I told you, I've suspected for years. She trapped my son into marriage. Mrs. Richardson. Officer Kowalski's voice was sharp enough to cut her off. Your daughter-in-law is not an illegal immigrant. She has never been an illegal immigrant. She holds diplomatic immunity as the daughter of Ambassador Eduardo Melo of Portugal. Patricia's smile froze. That's not, she's a nobody. She works at some cultural center. She directs the cultural exchange program at the Portuguese embassy. The embassy representative corrected. She has done so for 4 years. Her father has served as ambassador for 7 years and is a close friend of several senior State Department officials. The color drained from Patricia's face. Marcus never told me. You never asked, I said quietly. In 2 years, you never once asked about my family, my work, my life before Marcus. You decided I was an illegal immigrant because of my accent and my skin color, and you never bothered to verify whether that assumption was true. Mrs. Richardson, Officer Hartley continued, filing a false report with ICE is a federal crime. Given that your report targeted a diplomat's family member, additional charges may apply. You'll need to come with us to answer some questions. Come with you? Patricia's voice rose to a shriek. You can't arrest me. I'm an American citizen. I was trying to protect my son. You were trying to deport his wife based on racist assumptions, Officer Kowalski said flatly. And you filed a false federal report to do it. American citizenship doesn't protect you from the consequences of federal crimes. Patricia turned to me, her expression shifting from shock to fury. This is your fault. You should have told me who you were. You let me believe. I let you show me who you were, I interrupted. And you showed me a woman who hated me for my accent before she knew my name, who called me a mail-order bride to her friends, who treated me like garbage for 2 years because she thought I was powerless. I stepped closer to her. I didn't hide my identity to trap you, Patricia. I hid it because I wanted to know if you could ever see me as a person instead of a stereotype. You failed that test. Spectacularly. The officers led Patricia out of her pristine colonial house, past her manicured lawn, into the back of a federal vehicle. Her neighbors watched from their windows. Some of them took photos. I felt a grim satisfaction watching her perfect American facade crumble around her. Marcus was devastated when I told him what had happened. Not at me, at his mother. At himself for not seeing how far her hatred would go. At the situation that had forced his wife to watch his mother be escorted away by federal officers. I should have stopped this years ago, he said, holding me while I finally let myself cry. I should have cut her off the first time she called you a mail-order bride. I kept hoping she'd change, and instead I let her terrorize you. She's your mother, I said. You wanted to believe she could be better. She tried to have you deported. His voice cracked. She could have destroyed our life together because she couldn't accept that I love someone who doesn't fit her narrow idea of acceptable. He pulled back and looked at me with fierce determination. I'm done making excuses for her. Whatever happens legally, whatever consequences she faces, she earned them. And I'm not letting her hurt you ever again. Patricia was released after 6 hours of questioning, but was informed that an investigation was ongoing. The State Department expressed serious concern about harassment of diplomatic personnel. My father, ever the diplomat, released a statement calling it a misunderstanding, while making clear that any future incidents would be handled with the full weight of international protocol. Translation: mess with my daughter again, and Portugal will make your life very uncomfortable. The social fallout was even worse for Patricia than the legal consequences. Her neighbors had seen her taken away by IC. Her friends had heard the story, twisted through gossip into increasingly dramatic versions. The woman who had spent years presenting herself as the picture of respectable American motherhood was now known as the racist who had tried to deport an ambassador's daughter. She called Marcus 3 weeks later, crying, "I've been dropped from the country club. The Garden Society asked me not to return. My own sister won't speak to me." Her voice was raw with self-pity. "All because of that woman you married. All because of what you did to her," Marcus corrected. "You did this to yourself, Mom. And until you can take responsibility for that, until you can genuinely apologize to Isadora, we have nothing to talk about." He hung up. I've never loved him more than I did in that moment. Last week, my father hosted a reception at the Embassy for Portuguese-American Cultural Exchange. Marcus and I attended as honored guests. I introduced my husband to senators, ambassadors, and business leaders who treated us both with warmth and respect. Patricia wasn't invited, obviously. As we danced under the chandeliers of the embassy ballroom, Marcus whispered in my ear, "I'm sorry it took something this awful for my mother to face consequences. You deserved better from my family." "I got better," I said, looking up at him. "I got you. My mother-in-law tried to get me deported because she thought I was an illegal immigrant. The immigration officer found my diplomatic passport. She lost her social standing, her reputation, and her son's respect. And I learned that the best revenge isn't anger or retaliation. It's living your best life while the people who tried to destroy you watch from the outside. That's the only justice that matters."